This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. Matched with the Boss by Stephanie Faris. Something was up at Misty Mountain's only dinner theater. That was Jordan's first thought as she pulled into the giant parking lot next to it. It didn't take a rocket scientist to come to that conclusion, though. The lot, which had been empty almost every morning of the 9 years she'd worked there, was notably not empty today. She counted 2 SUVs, 4 pickup trucks, 2 with tools sticking out of the bed, and 1 tiny 2-door car. She knew that car. She'd know it anywhere. It belonged to her mother, Josephine Strongblossom. Frowning, Jordan pulled into the spot next to her mom's car. Parking there made her feel a little protected. She shifted into park and stared at the brick building in front of her. There was no way to see what was going on from here. The only way was to get out of the car, walk around to the front, and peer in the front doors. The entire front of the building was glass, but the rest of the building was brick. She'd never figure anything out from this position. That was why, a few minutes later, she found herself in front of the door, face pressed close to it, when suddenly it burst open, threatening to knock her backward. It would have done just that if someone on the other side of the door hadn't yelled, "Hey, watch out!" It was a male voice, and it didn't belong to the owner of this theater, Jim Jasper. The door stopped moving suddenly, and Jordan found herself standing there staring at it. At some point, she grabbed the handle and now clasped it in her right hand. Finally, she came to her senses and tugged, pulling it open just a little. On the other side of that door was her mother, and she had wide-eyed surprise on her face. "Jordan, dear, I had no idea you were standing there." Jordan blinked at her mom, who now stood in the doorway, not budging. She wore a pink baseball cap covered in diamonds, along with a matching pink t-shirt and shorts. She looked like she was heading out for a day of errands, so it was possible she'd just been driving by and decided to pop in. When Jordan's youngest sister had headed off to college 4 years ago, things had taken a turn for her mom. It wasn't that she was bored so much as restless. She threw herself into her friendships with Judy Trapp and Betty Jenkins, longtime friends of hers who had more time on their hands than pretty much anyone else in town. And that was when they became the Misty Mountain busybodies. If something was going on at the dinner theater, her mom would have to know about it so she could report it back to her friends. "Come on in," her mom said, pushing the door toward her. Jordan stared at her mom for far longer than probably seemed normal. This was all weird. Normally, Jordan would be inside, starting up the coffee pot. Instead, she was standing there, uncaffeinated, looking at her mother on the other side of the door. There was no telling what was going on inside. But curiosity finally propelled her forward. Jordan pulled the door open the rest of the way and slipped inside, standing next to her mom, unable to move as she took in the scene in front of her. First, the floor of the lobby was covered in plastic. She'd noticed that the second she set her canvas sneaker-covered foot on top of it. The rustling sound was jarring, but not nearly as jarring as the 2 guys in front of her prying the top off the ticket desk. Everything else was gone. The point-of-sale system, the posters on the wall, the sign that read, "Tickets." "What is this?" Jordan finally found the strength to ask. Both guys stopped what they were doing to turn and look at her. Clearly, she'd interrupted their work. They'd seen her on the other side of the door, or maybe the "watch out" hadn't been about her at all. "Lucky," the man with the prying tool in his right hand called out. Lucky? No, it couldn't be. This day could not get worse. But it did. The door to the left of the concession stand was propped open, and through it walked the man she'd avoided for 14 years. Since the night he'd rocked her world with the most unforgettable kiss of her life. And then he'd never spoken to her again. Seeing her didn't seem to have nearly the same effect on him as it did on her. He looked over at his guys, then came to a stop next to the ticket desk. As he turned from the workers to Jordan and her mom, his expression remained completely neutral. "Jim had to run out," Lucky said. As though that explains.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.